I obviously lied about it and went back to Australia and felt further away from him and everyone than ever. And when I ended up spending like 9 months in Australia, I watched them like all go to school and stuff. I wasn't part of it anymore. And yeah, I would say like, I was throwing up 50 times a day for like 9 months. And yeah, it was pretty shit.
Did your
That
family
was
notice
definitely
it?
rock bottom right there.
Did your family notice?
They did, but they were in total denial about it, or they once again just didn't want to bring it up. I don't think they knew how to deal with it. And I think obviously like I was lying about it. I was like, I don't know why I'm throwing up, like this and this, or I try to hide it from them and stuff. And it's not like they enabled me, but they did let me get away with it for a long time.
Sad that this seems to be a common occurrence with young women, not just in Australia, but just the world nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just it's not even the fact that it happens, but we just don't know how to actually address it, how to bring it up, how to talk about it.
Exactly, because we're so different. It's not until we have to be ready to talk about it as well. Like I know that I was such a defensive person too. So if anyone even brought it up, like how dare you like assume that about me and stuff. And I think also for the first time when I was living in New York, I felt really successful. And so when I came back to Australia and was in Australia for that time period, like anybody that I knew and stuff, I didn't want them to think that I was like failing and like I'd come back from the US and I'd failed. Like I wanted to go over there and make a career. And so I felt embarrassed about everything. And I just really tried to hide it. And I had like a chip on my shoulder to prove to people that, no, I'm going back there. Fuck you. You don't know anything about me. I'm not better than you, but I have bigger dreams than being in this small town.
So you're in this really bad time, you're in a pretty bad place. How did you get yourself up out of that the first time?
I remember like I literally was in bed one day and I had this moment where I think I read like a quote on Instagram or something. It was when Instagram was very new, and I'd also started building a following pretty quickly on Instagram because one of my best friends in college was Miss Teen USA at the time. And so I was very active on Instagram when it was like 2012 time. And so through that, I
Yeah.
gained followers. And I remember reading, I think it was some sort of stupid quote that had like the sky on it or something. But to be fair, I can't even remember what the quote was. But oh no, it was that like I woke up one day and just decided to change or something. And I remember like reading that and I was like, if I ever want to go back to the US, I have to stop. I cannot keep doing this. I haven't worked in 9 months. I haven't done anything in 9 months with throw up. And if I ever actually want to live in the United States again, I have to stop. And literally from that day forward, I did not throw up until I got back to the US.
That's quite a journey. What steps did you actually take to basically pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and be like, okay, fuck it. I need to do what it takes to get back to where I want to be?
It was September that I like made that decision. And then I went on to my school's website and they had a starting class in January. And I also knew at that point that I didn't want to go to LA for my second year. And I just was going there because my friends were going there. And I wanted to stay in New York for my second year. So at that point, I was like, there's a New York class that's starting in January next year. And I brought it up to my parents and I was like, and I came clean about everything. And I said, I need to go back. I am going to put in everything that I have in the next 3 months to get back there. I need your support on this. And obviously there were like hard conversations, but they definitely were like, okay, we think, yeah, this is best for you. You should go. And I really had to prove myself because I'd spent so long being sick. And like, every day I was like doing things to show that like I needed to get back there.
Did you seek out any therapy at that time?
No, I have only just recently started therapy. I think I had so many bad experiences with my sister because we would do like family therapy sessions and stuff. And I remember like them trying to blame us as a family for my sister. And I'm sure they didn't have bad intentions, but she went through a lot of therapists. I saw that happen. The encounters that I had, plus the encounter I had before I moved to the US, I was like very strong headed of like, what can they tell me if they've never lived in my shoes? I didn't go. I thought about it a lot. My mom wanted me to go. I told her I went, but I didn't go.
I did the same thing with my parents. Don't worry.
Oh, good. I love that.
So you made it back. How did that transition go?
I really started seeking validation in this transition. I found it very hard at school because before I'd left, I was like, my first year, as I said, like I was really small, like I was everyone wanted to be my friend. And I don't say that in like a obnoxious way. I say that in a way of like I've been the overweight kid and I've been the skinny kid, and there's a difference.
Yeah.
And so when I went back, I was no longer the skinny kid and stuff. And I didn't know anybody. I had some of the same teachers, but I was such a different person that I almost felt like I was embarrassed that I'd gotten bigger and stuff. And I felt like I spent a lot of time apologizing. And of course, like I was on camera at school every single day. I was studying acting for film, and like we were recorded every day. And seeing yourself and seeing the differences is really mentally very hard. I think it took 2 or 3 months before I even felt okay. There were so many times where I like called my mom crying, being like, I want to go home. And she's like, no, you don't. Like, just hold it out. And she was right. But it took a long time to even realize that like, I'm not the same person, and it's okay. But I always felt like I had to apologize for being the same person. And I also ended up dating a 40-year-old guy who was not married, but he had a kid with like, 3 different people and was also abusive, like, hit all is in jail now. Like he like almost killed his previous girlfriend and stuff. And put myself in just a stupid situation and put more energy and effort into him than I did for anything else.
It was just like an escape from what you're already going through with your acting.
100%. Because I was
Wow.
feeling like I was getting nowhere near as many auditions, nowhere near as much like roles or like anything like that. My agency dropped me and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So when you're in front of the camera and you're going through this mental battle, like what was it, like an inner voice that was inside your head that was just telling you things, or was it just like a feeling you
A
were
hundred
getting?
percent. Literally, it was just like, you're so fat. You look awful. You look so ugly. I can't believe you let yourself look like that.
How did you turn that around? Because
To be fair,
that's something
like
to overcome.
I haven't to this day 100% turned it around. I think between then and now, obviously I've been through a lot and been a lot of different sizes and stuff. I got to the point where in 2017 I realized that nobody was going to fulfill what I wanted to hear. I could be the skinniest person in the world. I realized that I was never going to be the skinniest person in the room. I was never going to be the prettiest person in the room. I was never going to be the most talented person in the room. And I realized that like, I had to be okay with that because there's always going to be somebody who like is better. Not like a better person or anything, but like, I went through a stage of realizing nobody was my competition except for me and stuff. And then that's when I took a step away from doing what everybody wanted me to do and then creating my own stuff. And with a lot of help from friends and stuff, I created a pilot that then we worked with huge influences and stuff for it. It then got sold and everything. And then I started creating my own content and stuff and taking a lot more control of being in front of the camera. And I still have moments where I'm like, oh, I hate myself. Obviously, I feel like most people, I hope, no, I don't hope, but I feel like most people have moments where, like, oh, I look like shit. But it's definitely taking that pressure off of me from being like, you need to be perfect for everybody else. Like I like now I write my stuff. I'm able to fund it. I've sold stuff, like I've acted in stuff I've sold and everything. And it's so much, it's just like a control that like I never knew that I needed.
Step back for a second. You
Sorry.
mentioned no. I want to revisit this. So you were in this relationship. It was an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It was happening around the same time where you were going through these body dysmorphia type issues.
Yeah.
First question is why? What was bringing you back to this situation that you knew was toxic and dysfunctional? And secondly, did anyone notice and just say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
No, nobody noticed. My friends all knew him and the situation, and they just laughed about it, I think. I don't know whether they laughed about it behind my back, but they like laughed about it with me. My friend in LA, the guy that I'd lived with this summer, him and I mended our relationship once I got better and stuff, and he was actually the one that moved me out to LA in a way. Like I went to visit him to go to the Teen Choice Awards in 2014. I gotta say, yeah, 2014. And and I remember we were in his car and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so happy right now. And I said that and I was like, I was like, I wish this was my life every day. And he was like, it can be. Move to LA, come live with me. I'll kick my roommate out. I hate him. We throw eggs at each other. And I realized in that moment, I was like, yeah, I can. Like, why am I looking for validation in somebody who's not even like why I'm in the United States in the first place? And he's never, the best case scenario is that I can get away. The worst case scenario is he kills me with his track record.
Yeah.
So
you moved to LA.
So I moved to LA.
And then how was that? Obviously, there was some other factors that went into that decision.
Not really. I'm very impulsive. And if I've set my mind on it, I'll do it regardless of what anyone thinks is a smart thing to do. I'll come up with reasons.
You'll find some way to justify it to everybody.
100%.
You should have been an attorney.
Yeah.
So what was that process like?
I loved it at the start. It was hard. LA and New York are like different countries. I didn't have my driver's license because I lived in New York since I was 18.
Yeah, you didn't need one.
I didn't need one.
No.
So I didn't have a car. I didn't have my driver's license. I didn't know the city. I didn't have many contacts out there. Like New York, I knew a lot of people. I was part of a lot of like different production companies and stuff. For LA, I was like completely starting fresh and didn't have any agency representation or anything. But I think the worst thing was that I didn't have a car or my license. And so Caleb, my friend, taught me how to drive in like a week and a half in his car. And then I went to try to get my driver's license and I failed the first time because I don't really know why. The guy was just mean.
I mean, it's the
What did I
DMV.
do?
That's their job.
Yeah. He said that I was changing lanes too aggressively, which probably was right. But also Caleb changed. It's LA. Like you have to change lanes aggressively.
Yeah, that's the only way to drive in LA.
And he said I was like,
I
went too quickly to change lanes and stuff. And I was just like, yo, like what? But anyway, so I failed that one. And then I went back literally the next day because my dad was coming the following week. And I was like, no, I have to have my license because I need to ask him to help me buy a car. And so I went the next day and I did good. Like I was going to pass until the very end when I accidentally drove on the wrong side of the road because I did a left-hand turn and I was going back into the DMV parking lot. That's what's so shitty about this whole thing. I was doing a left-hand turn and in LA, I don't understand. There can be 3 lanes for one side of the road and 1 lane for the other side of the road. And so I turned into the turning lane of the other side of the road before I turned into the DMV. And he was literally like, you were going to pass until then. But then he was also like, did you know you were going 30 in all the residential streets when the speed limit's 25? And I said, oh, it is? And he was like, yeah, but it would have been fine. And I was like, okay. But I failed. And then my dad came into town and I did one last test. And I told him that I hadn't done any tests yet. And so he was there, and then the guy that got into the car was like, oh, I can't do your test because I've already done it before. And my dad was like, what? And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. What? And then so I got into the car with this other guy who was super nice, and we were talking. He was like a drag queen. It was like cool. And we were having like, it was cool. We were really vibing. And then he told me to turn right, and this pedestrian walked out of nowhere, and I braked in time. And so he was just like, oh my God, that was so good. I would have hit them and stuff. So he passed me on that alone, which thank God. Because he knew that getting a driver's license in LA was so hard.
The way people drive in LA, I assume like 90% of people have never even taken a driving lesson.
And so here's the thing. There's this girl I know from Texas, and her mom just signed off on her getting her driver's license. So I was like, her mom signed that she did this many hours and you get your license automatically.
That is terrifying.
She was also a horrible driver. So
most people are from Texas.
well, yeah.
Apologize to my Texas listeners.
I don't. They need to know. When I was last in Houston, like a couple of weeks ago, I literally was like holding the car because I was like, oh my God. And I was like, and if they honk, like someone's going to bring out a handgun at this point. Like,